Good evening. And if you're just tuning in, you are listening live to 105.3 and 107.7 out of the beautiful city of New Orleans to UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio Network. We like to call it just UPRN, and you're listening to the Angel Rock. I am your host, Lorilei Potvin. So I'm a host of this show, and then I co-host a second show here on the network on Thursday nights with my very good friend, very gifted medium angel channel, David Hansel, with The Thing at the Foot of the Bed on Thursdays at 7 o'clock. And if you've been here before, you know that the show is very audience participative. 80% of our listening audience, that's what they do, is they listen. But we do have viewing audiences. So if you'd like to come over and join the conversation, I'm going to tell you how to do that. We are streaming over. We already got Z-Sun Dragon. We got Kevin here. He says, hi, Lorilei. Hi, Mike. If you want to join us like Kevin, what you can do is go to UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio on YouTube and Facebook. I just shared it to my Facebook profile under Lorilei Potvin on Facebook. I'm also streaming on my YouTube channel on the Angel Rock with Lorilei Potvin. We are streaming to Canada's Most Haunted, and I'm streaming to the Angel Rock actually on Instagram. For you Instagram listeners, if you are joining us and I don't get a chance to shout you out, I apologize, but StreamYard has not integrated the chat in the main chat. So I will try to sort of switch back and forth if I can. And I will. Also, don't forget that we are on TV. This network has a YouTube channel, and the Angel Rock is streaming there tonight. So if you'd like to watch this on TV, you're going to go to the Roku channel store. You're going to look up UFO space P as in paranormal, and there's a drop-down list, and you're looking for UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio, and you can find this show on there. There's a multitude of shows on the network that are playing, because as I've said many times before, we have multiple shows with incredible hosts playing 7 days a week. And when we're not streaming live, the archive server randomly selects shows over the last 25 plus years. That's how long this network has been around. So there is something for everybody. So if you like what you see, please like, share, and subscribe, and tell all your friends about it. We'd love to have you join us. We always have new hosts and new shows that are coming. So there really is something for everybody here. I think I've remembered everything. Now I'm going to introduce our guest, because he was on here before Christmas, and I could not wait. I knew this book was coming, you guys. I know we're going to love it. We've also got Howie Odell. I'm going to give him a shout out. He was on here recently. Most of y'all know him. He actually started and owns part of the Riff Nation Network. He also has his own show, The Orion Effect. And I think we got the date straight, right, Howie? I think David and I are going to be on there again on Sunday. I believe it's March 24th. Don't quote me. I think it's the third Sunday we're going to be there. We've got Kasan Lee. He's over in Sri Lanka. Zach Powers, I have not seen you in forever. I am so glad you are here. I'm glad everybody's here, but welcome. Okay, you guys, we've got Mike Fiorito. Hang on. I'm going to read what he sent me. But first of all, I want to read a little bit. Am I not prepared, you guys, with producing my show? I got so many devices ready. You never know what happens with a live show. I do a lot of producing for this show and for some shows, people that are new and learning how to do it. So hang on. I was checking out all kinds of new things here. And of course, Mike Fiorito's website wants to disappear on me. I had it already, Mike. I did. Okay, so hang on, guys, because he has a pretty interesting bio. What he does is I call the muggle job. So he's a freelance journalist. He's the author for All We Know. That's the book we're going to be talking about tonight, with ufology and all that cool stuff that goes with it. First time he was on here was with Mescalito riding his white horse, and he won a really prestigious award about that. For that, we're going to talk about that recently. Falling from Trees, The Hated Ones, Sleeping with Fishes, Call Me Guido, Freud's Haberdashery Habits, and Hallucinating Huxley. And it's right in his bio. I did not read this ahead of time, obviously. Mescalito riding his white horse received the 2024 Independent Press Distinguished Favorite Award in Spirituality. So the new book, his UFO-themed science fiction novel, For All We Know, is now available. I'm switching to the other one he sent me. So it's a literary excursion into the lived experience of the UFO phenomenon feminine, interwoven into a tapestry of music, psychedelics, and the flux and flow of everyday life. Written from the first perspective, the book provides the reader with a biographical snapshot of the processes from which, and not, God, but Mike, you give me a whole mouthful here. Which anomalous experiences are perceived, processed, and incorporated into a personal perspective on the cosmos and the human condition. Welcome, Mike. You want to show them you had the book ready. Show everybody what,
Yes,
because
and
I know everybody's going to be into this tonight.
to be on. And yes, this is the book, which
Mhm.
I'll just say briefly that the uh, the woman that works with me, she's the artist who's done a number of my covers. What we typically do is we'll have conversations. I'll talk about the book, and then she'll kind of sketch from there. In this case, I had a few digital sort of
Right?
versions of this, and
It's a
then I think she
beautiful
did a
cover.
beautiful job. Yeah, it's a beautiful
Mhm.
job. Just I wanted it to be simple, sleek, beam me up kind of look.
It's perfect and it tells the story. Like I was telling you, and I've mentioned it before in the show, I do try and I always say I think it's a nurse in me, to put your cover up, any author I have on the show as the banner for the show, because I always think if somebody's scrolling the net looking for a book to read or they're in a bookstore, right? It
Hmm.
can't hurt because everything goes into the subconscious, and they may think,
Hmm.
oh, where have I seen that picture? I know I've seen that picture before.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is a big difference from the last book you wrote, and congratulations again. That's
Thank
a
you.
pretty prestigious award for
Thank
Mescalito
you.
writing.
Thank you.
So what I got to hear. Okay, so what started with this book? Like I knew it was coming, and I said,
Yeah.
"Oh, you got to come back on when it's written." So why did you foray into ufology and what goes with it?
Yeah, it started in a way it really does come from Mescalito. I would say there's a dotted line that connects them. Uh,
Well, for people that maybe haven't heard our first show, and you guys can find that, I believe you were on in November 2023 on the Angel Rock. Can you give them just a quick synopsis of Mescalito and kind of how you
sure,
got
sure.
into this book?
So as you said, and by the way, thank you so much for having me here. It's such a pleasure to be here with you,
I
Laura.
couldn't wait.
Yeah, it's really exciting, and you're a great host.
Well,
Um,
thank you.
Mescalito is
As I'm coughing.
Mescalito is I'm a music journalist, and it started when I interviewed bluegrass legend Peter Rowan, who is kind of a shaman in his own right, a kind of
Did I freeze or did you? Hopefully it's not me. You guys let me know if it's one of us. One of us froze. I'm not sure who.
oh yeah, are we
Is it
back?
me or you, Mike? Did I freeze or did you freeze?
It looks okay on my end.
It might have been me. That's why I said I've
Okay,
got devices ready. You never know with live. Go ahead.
got to
Sorry.
switch. That's okay. So Mescalito is I met Peter Rowan. When you meet someone who's a legend like that, I mean, he's a person, he's a regular guy, but he's also a source of music, and this music that I've listened to all my life, and it hits you deeply when you are talking to someone like that. You've heard their voice since you're 17 years old,
Mhm.
and he played with Jerry Garcia in a band called Olin and the Way. That's really how a lot of us know him. So he
Mhm.
went from bluegrass playing kind of psychedelic music, and but he's continued as a bluegrass. So that
I hope to goodness we're not going to have problems here. Hang on, Mike. I'll see if I
oh
turn
sure,
off my camera for a minute. Is that going to work? It's me, not me up there, but go ahead. See if that'll stop the freezing. Sorry.
oh sure, no, just let me know, no problem.
You never had that problem the last time, but you never
Yeah,
know. So
it's anything can happen, but I'm ready for all of it.
actually, Kevin said you froze.
Okay, am I okay
I
now?
said, you guys, okay, guys, let us know. If not, we'll figure it out. Don't you worry. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, just let me know if I could switch to my phone
Or if we have to,
wireless.
if I have to pop you out, pop you back in, we'll figure it out. I'm used to this. Been
Okay,
doing it for a long time. Go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, no, so Mescalito is really it started as an interview with a musician, but it became I was having dreams, I was having visions, I was recording them. And I said to Peter, it was just going to be a short article for a music magazine. I said, I'm getting visions and I have an idea for a larger project. Would you be interested?
Mhm.
So he, yeah, sure. Tell me about it. So we had a number of conversations. I went out to California and I did a ton of research. But that research actually started, that was the beginnings of uh, For All We Know. And so I started to I read a book by Jeff Kripal called The Flip. And that book is a kind of response to, I would say, academia and
Okay.
its resistance to explore ufology as a serious subject. Not, I wouldn't even say it's addressed to the general public. It's addressed really to scientists and academics who are not, they're not giving a thorough they're not doing their research, to be honest with you, and they're sort of going with the mainstream.
Yeah.
That book, and he calls it The Flip because he's flipping you. So that book began for me a serious deep dive into the UFO subject. Now I've read 50 books on the subject, but it also began because this is how my process works. I've always had UFO dreams. I've always had
Okay.
deep.
I was going to ask you that. Have you had an experience?
So my experience has come through different modalities. So I haven't necessarily where I've been, standing on my lawn and saw a big UFO. That has not happened to me.
Mhm.
But I've had extensive experiences in my dreams,
Mhm.
visitations,
Yeah.
emotional experiences, contact. I've experienced it through binaural beats. So Robert Monroe created these binaural beats,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah.
a kind of hypnotic way to pull you, to get you out of your ego into
You know
that
what I like
larger.
them about though too, and even
Yeah.
Hertz toning with the certain meditations is that they can be targeted with different frequencies, and especially even with the binaural beats,
Hmm.
to even help health wise, pain
Yes.
wise, meditative wise, different states of consciousness, and so on and so forth. So I think they're incredible.
Absolutely, they are. And there's also through psychedelics. So
Mhm.
through, and I'm not promoting the use of anything. To me, these things are very sacred. They're very
Mhm.
um, profound, and people approach this with great respect. Of course, when you're younger, maybe not so much because, or at least I know the way I approached it, I didn't have the knowledge to understand the depth, to
But how could
understand.
you? Because it's a
Right.
prohibitive substance, and then schools. A lot of parents would be up in arms when if children are being educated. I'm calling them children, but even teenagers, and
Hmm.
you're naturally rebellious as a teenager. But I'm going to throw this in here very quickly, and you probably
Yeah.
came across this in your research. They
Yeah.
are now finding with these type of drugs that when they're administered in a clinical setting, that the amount of healing that can come from utilizing these drugs, that could take years of therapy helping with
Hmm.
PTSD, with, I mean, go on and on and on and on. So they had their place, definitely.
Absolutely. The founder of AA, I don't know his last name,
I don't either know yet.
um, but he took LSD and it profoundly.
Oh, hopefully we didn't lose Mike there. We'll wait. Maybe he's got a bit of a storm or something coming, you guys. Hopefully it'll come back. If not, what we'll do if it keeps happening, he can either, like he said, switch to his phone or um you're back. Okay, you're
I'm
back.
back. Okay, if it happens again, I'll switch to my phone.
Yeah, what we'll do is
Um,
I'll take you off. You're going to use the same link and you can come
okay.
right back in with your phone. But if we do it at the same time, then we'll get some feedback. But go ahead. So you were saying the founder of AA.
Yeah, the founder of AA, he took LSD, and I believe with Aldous Huxley, and that was one of it had already existed, but he was one of the co-founders of AA. And what they found is for people with trauma, as you said, people, veterans, people who have substance abuse problems, that psychedelics has been very healing. One thing,
Yep.
Laura, that is also interesting, I participated in a research study for John Hopkins.
Okay.
They're very interested in people who have extraterrestrial experiences while you know under the influence,
Mhm.
and it's a thing that it occurs, so it's such an integral part of it that it's not an anomalous thing. It's occurring frequently. They want to know. They want to know what is this? What's happening? What was your encounter like? What was your experience?
Mhm.
And I would say for me, a lot of it is it's the experience of the other. And I'll kind of go into that as well. And the other is, to me, the UFO is a spiritual path, and it's a path to the greater depth of understanding of consciousness, of existence, of life in this universe. And when you're very sensitive on a sacred plant, and your sensitivity to what's around you is increased, a millionfold.
Now I know why you just said it removes the ego, because I was trying to put those two together. Now I know why.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
when you're under the influence, it removes that ego part that would be saying you're just making this up, you're just imagining this, am I crazy, whatever, right?
exactly.
Mhm.
And this is, when you think about it, and in a way, that's what Jeff Kripal was writing to. The ego. I have my little ego that thinks it's riding the bus. It thinks it's driving the bus. And
Mhm.
meanwhile, the bus is driving it. But our ego thinks then it can uh,
Exactly.
direct consensus, everyday reality, and be in complete control. Logic and all of that guides us to, the things we need to do in our everyday. But in fact, it's a drop in an ocean.
But don't you think that logic goes out the window when you start looking at these topics?
It does. It's enigmatic by nature.
Mhm.
It seems to be that when you try to grasp it, when you try to understand it, like a dream, in fact, it kind of it evades. In people's experiences and their descriptions, it's it comes across cryptically. It doesn't lend itself easily to scientific investigation. We have fragments of things, of radar, of infrared, from the experiences pilots have had. Of course, we
Mhm.
have witness testimony,
Yeah.
but it seems
I've
to
had an
elude.
experience.
Yeah, tell me yours.
Okay. Well, first of all, I always shout Joe out. I talk about this often. I mentioned Joe Montaldo, who owns this network. Joe, if you're listening, giving you a shout out.
Hey, Joe.
Anyways, he's the one that started this network, but he also is one of the founders of ICAR, which is International Center for Alien Research. He has done a 20 plus year study on
Hmm.
Rh negative blood, green eyes, and red hair, which never, I've seen him say sometimes 20,000 and sometimes 70,000 years. I think it's probably before 70,000 years ago. Those DNA factors or genetic factors never existed in the human genome. So, where did
Hmm.
they come from? So, with that being said, my mother has red hair, green eyes, and is Rh negative. Does not believe in any of this stuff, kind of makes fun of the stuff like that I would be doing or we'd be talking about. But in my previous home where I had my profound paranormal experience. Never went looking for it. If I hadn't lived it, I wouldn't have believed some of the stuff that happened. But there was one day I was driving to the store and I got very little sleep in that house because the activity was very violent. My partner almost died. Like, it is a
Hmm.
crazy story. And it should have taken me 2 minutes to go to the store. And my partner was a little worried about me driving. I was just going around the corner of the store. So I'm at the lights and I blink. And next thing I know, I open my eyes. I am miles away from where I was. My
Wow.
car is in the opposite direction. I'm getting goosebumps as I'm telling you. I was on this, and I know this city. I've lived here my whole life. I did
Hmm.
a lot of rural areas because I was a community visiting nurse. Never been on this road before. There was a building that was a half circle, and it had a bunch of broken out windows that I was in front of. And the reason why I opened my eyes, my phone was ringing. And it was my partner going, "Where the HELL are you?" And I had to say, "I don't know." And he's going, "What do you mean you don't know?" I said, "I don't know. I was surprised I got service." I said, "I got
Yeah.
to figure out where the heck I am. I will call you right back." Because he thought I had gotten in an accident. Now, I have not found out, but where I get a bit of information is through meditation and the dream state. So I wanted to throw that in there so you were on the
Yeah.
right path.
Yeah. Well, that's what more have you found out of curiosity? Have you gotten
Um,
bits?
I don't really, and again, I just have to go intuitively in what I feel. I
Yeah.
don't believe I had a gray experience. I feel a real connection, believe it or not. You don't hear this, I think, too often with the Lyrian people and from Lyrian, like that planet up there. I'm
Hmm.
not sure what it was. I feel it may, if I go back, I get fuzzy images of blue, like
Hmm.
completely blue individual. I forget the name. I'm going to get it wrong, what they're classified as.
Hmm.
I don't think I was injured. I don't know why I was up there unless it was to unlock maybe some more of my abilities to figure out what was going on. I think it's been going through familial lines on my mom's side
Hmm.
personally. I also have quite a bit of First Nations blood I've recently discovered as well. My eldest son traced our family tree back, so I'm not sure if it has to do with that or why. Um, there's been a lot of teaching. I think I got a lot of downloads, and I think it
Hmm.
was almost a check-in, if you will. I don't
Hmm.
remember anything like per se, but the one thing I wanted to add to when you mentioned for yourself and you said I wasn't standing on the front lawn and this flying saucer came down and beamed me up. The majority of people I have talked to and run into and worked with, it's been very much like what you're talking about. They would call it a dream state. One lady, oh, wow, that was a profound reading I did. She was calling it her visions, but it was actually in a dream state. And
Hmm.
it had a near death experience years before. And I don't think she realized she was telepathic because as she was telling me this, I could literally see it before she could tell me. And she was describing three different individuals and she was laying on a table. And I was going through the internet and I'm going, is this the person? Is this the person? And it was just a drawing. She goes, yeah, they look just like that. So there is something
Wow.
strange that goes on with these experiences. Um, I'm not sure why they all happen. I mean, we hear some of the more negative ones sometimes, but I think there's
Hmm.
positive as well.
Yeah. No, that's fascinating. I do think I was
Look at
talking to
Kevin
someone.
said, Lyrian
Uh,
and blue so resonates with my dream experiences over time as of late, Lorilei. He's in
yeah.
Canada too.
And it's interesting you mentioned indigenous
Mhm,
nations.
mhm.
I forget her name. She has a number of books about the sky people. So she was half indigenous. She spoke
Mhm.
Spanish and she went to South America and Central America and she
Okay.
interviewed people. And she was a scholar. She was, I think, a professor of education at Montana State. Might
Okay.
still be. She she would go into the village and talk to people and they would tell her very candidly, oh yeah,
Mhm,
when I was a kid, this thing came down from the
mhm.
sky and it brought me these objects. It showed me these, there are various stories. And the amount of the how often it happened was very interesting. But in their culture now, you can't be monolithic and say it's just like this or it's just like that.
Mhm,
Some cultures are more open to it. Some cultures are more open to uh, and see it from a spiritual perspective.
mhm.
In our culture, I think it people laugh at it. Some people, as you know, as you said,
Mhm.
right? Some people will laugh at it because it's scary, because it shakes the foundations of what some people think is what it's all about.
But
Your job,
those
your money,
people
your
are the
car.
people. Those people, though, sorry, I didn't mean to speak
That's
over
okay.
you. Those people, without any judgment, are the people that think that they're here by accident. There's just one lifetime, and their whole life consists of, I'm going to work, I'm going to bring my paycheck, I'm going to do, they do, you know what I mean? Like they live
Yeah.
life as a human being. Not that we're not all human beings, but I find that people that are open to these experiences, like you said, yours were in the dream state. You very well could have just said, these are just weird dreams I'm having. But
Hmm.
no, I think you're much more open-minded. And I think it's people that are open-minded as well as not. And I don't say egotistical judgmentally again for anybody listening, but I think it would be absolutely ludicrous to assume that we are the only living beings in the
Yeah.
entire universe.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Completely agree. I mean, it's for a scientist to think, number one, that we've got it all figured out
Not even
now.
close.
I mean, when Newton had it all figured out until he didn't. Einstein had it all figured out until he didn't. Schrodinger, Heisenberg.
I work with Einstein from the other side.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I do. And I have a few people that I work with when we connect with him. And I remember the one time my friend that was being the channel at that time, he doesn't channel through her. She just can hear and was seeing. And we didn't know who it was at first. We asked in this first session. And she said, it's so weird the way she was seeing it. It looked like it was an old DOS system computer. And each letter was being typed out on an old computer. And the funniest part I've never forgotten was they started, the person, when we didn't know it was Albert Einstein, was typing out the theory of RELA, and we all went, oh, hell no. None of us know physics. Not going to work. And then my friend started laughing as she's explaining this. She said, I can literally see each letter being deleted off the screen, and you
That's
were
funny.
in a different way. So the other thing I'm going to add, when you were talking about all these scientists, I truly believe that a lot of our technology that we have, and we are the last to know what they really have, is coming from off planet.
That's what that's what has been said, and I've read about it. And that's why I always come back to for all we know, because I look at this subject as a questioner. So I think one of the main important things for me, and this may not be for everyone, is we don't understand the nature of reality. I mean, we don't understand the not at all. I mean, like you said, I think there are 6 septillion stars in the visible universe. 6 septillion stars. They're the amount of planets, I forget what it is. It's something. It's a lot of planets. That's the point. What we believe, and that's what we can see. Now, what about, scientists are talking about this interdimensional realm that's right here. That's cutting across.
I haven't seen we've got people that I've not seen in so long that are here tonight, Mike. This is so cool.
Awesome. Well, hello, welcome all. And I kind of delve into, so what I should say that for all we know is published by Loyola Press, and it's published as a fiction novel. No one will publish your testimonial, so that's something to mention.
Not know that.
No one will publish. You have to self-publish a testimonial, because I guess there are too many of them. I don't know. I wrote to publishers who specialize in ufology, but you can't get a testimonial published.
Or do you have to be sneaky and make it sound like it's fiction, but it's really your story, but you're writing
Well,
fiction?
To be honest, this book is a work of fiction in that I wasn't strict. I didn't have to adhere to. It reads very much like a memoir. And I wanted it to.
Because I want to ask you about your experiences, but I know you're trying to explain the book. So.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It reads very much like a memoir, and I wanted it to be in the first person. You will read it and you will say these are his experiences, but I didn't want to be confined to. I didn't want to be confined to fact only. Also, what I found in looking in the UFO literature you don't have a lot of uh, uh, fiction books on UFOs. Now you have strict science fiction. This is not a strict science fiction book. I wanted to invite other people into the conversation and to explore the experiences that I've had through dreams, through psychedelics,
Mm-hmm.
through trauma,
Yeah.
frankly, through music.
Mm-hmm.
So how music can be a vehicle
Or
to
doorway.
or doorway.
Mm-hmm.
There are many ways to go into this journey. And the journey, as I see it, it's as much about in here as it is out there. And the farther you go in here, the farther out there you go. And they're kind of connected, as above, so below.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's very much a part. You people are, if they read this book, and I've had people that are hardcore UFO nuts and bolts people.
Mm-hmm.
Some will read it and they get it. It's a poetic. I'm trying to create art, to have a conversation, to have a mythology about this that goes outside of just the UFO community. Because there are people that they see UFO in a book, they won't read it. They just won't pick it up. It's
Mm-hmm.
that's crazy. It's too wacky or something. So I wanted to create a very visual and a very lived feeling. It takes
Okay.
place. It's you could say in short, it's the spiritual journey of the narrator
I like that.
who, growing up in the '70s in New York, which I did, some rough and tumble sections of New York City,
Mm-hmm.
and yet, for instance, having a gun put to my head,
Oh my God.
and the trauma of that, and the disconnect, and the opportunity for discovery that creates. So someone might say, what does that have to do with UFOs? Well, it has to do with understanding the other, diving into that larger pool of experience and consciousness that's something like a near-death experience, a traumatic experience. Uh, and it could be joyful too. I don't want to just be narrow. Some of it's actually quite funny, I think. Um, my wife and I during COVID, we took a trip into, I'm in New York City, so as soon as I leave, anything that has trees looks rural to me. And we took mushrooms, and we had quite an experience, and it was a journey, an encounter with non-human intelligence, and some of it's quite funny.
I could
Um,
totally believe that because I don't take drugs. But when I was younger, I wanted to know what all the hype about it was. So in my 20s, one of my friends, it was a girls' night out. I can't even believe we ate this peanut butter with the mushrooms on peanut butter and jam
right.
sandwiches. And I will tell you, that was one of the funnest nights I ever had in my life. And the things I saw would never have thought were possible.
Yeah, yeah, and it's cool, and I did similar things. I did
Now,
kind
we're
of
not
wacky things.
condoning it. You've already said that.
Right.
So anybody listening, just tuning in, we're just sharing our experiences.
It's just a shared experience.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that, Terence McKenna wrote about who is hysterical and funny and super smart, interesting person.
Mhm.
But there are shamans who would take the ayahuasca and then vomit it up, right, on rock, and then it became kind of a portal. So they
Interesting.
basically spread it out on a rock and then use it as a means to go to other places.
Mm.
And so so they talk about a level 3 civilization. Yeah, Terence McKenna. So people that know him.
You've got some
He
UFO fans here tonight. I know you do. Hi, Michelle. I'm going to give her a shout out. She's over in Australia, probably getting ready for work. It's Tuesday morning. Hmm.
howdy. Enjoy that tea.
Oh, Mike.
Uh,
Mike says, or sorry, he says that Mike. It's Kevin. Z Sun Dragon. Anything. like a traumatic experience can bring you to that same mindset as when UFO experience happens, brings the mind to a similar place, I guess he's asking.
I agree because I think what trauma does is it smacks you right out of your everyday consensus reality, and it puts you in a state of, I would say, questioning, and it puts you in a state where you're in touch with, because I think on some level that what they are is something of us, that there's some relationship
Oh, I'm
between.
laughing because now I've never published this interview. I have interviewed him, Frank Jacob, and Frank Jacob had a whole um, book series out, or I mean, video series. I don't know. Have you looked at it or not? Have you
I
seen it?
don't know it.
He,
No.
he is talking about exactly that's what the grays are, and he breaks them into the J rods, and I forget there were the one from 12,000 years in the future, and he goes through all of this stuff. It is fascinating, and he puts in
Hmm.
clips of people that believe that we, like when you said they're a part of us. And I've heard that, I know that I'm going to see what you think about this. Maybe this is what you're trying to, maybe you're thinking something different, but I've seen the theory where it's been that the extraterrestrials, especially the grays, the tall whites, things like that, are actually us from the future coming back to
Hmm.
humanity to help influence us in a little bit different direction so that we don't end up where they are now.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That is something that I've heard, and I certainly don't claim to know, but you encounter the other in your, that's the word, us. Yeah, I think it's, we are them. There's some, these are just speculations because I don't claim to possess the
I
answers.
think they walk among us.
I mean, have you ever, there's a really great book, it's called Flatland, and if I can just talk about it for a moment. It was written, I think, 1900 by a
Mhm.
mathematician, Edwin Abbott, and he describes there's a world in Flatland which is just two dimensions. So there's no up in Flatland. There's just going this way. I'm drawing an X right now, so I can
Okay.
go here, I can
Yeah.
go there, but it's flat. When I come into the world of Flatland, I step my foot, I step into the world of Flatland. All they see is where my foot intersects at that flat level. They don't
Okay.
see a foot. They just see this thing that appears out of nowhere, and it just kind of is a slice of something which cannot be ascertained. And then when the foot picks up, it just disappeared.
Oh,
So
wow.
this
You sure
kind
he
of,
wasn't on hallucinogenics when he wrote it? Because trying to imagine
maybe,
that, like because
maybe,
I'm very visual, and as you're saying this, I'm thinking, where would your mind have to go to perceive that? No, it makes sense as a mathematician,
yeah,
but I can see what you're saying, and it's like, wow, that is profound.
yeah. When these things come out of nowhere,
Mhm.
and they're orbs, and we don't, they don't have to be one kind of thing. I mean, we
Mm-mm.
believe the earth is 5 billion years old. We believe the universe is 15 billion years old. That leaves a lot of room for different sentience to evolve ahead of us, a million years,
Absolutely.
10,000 years, a billion years, who's to say? So there could be a myriad of types of people. But the way in which, I think the way in which these things manifest seem to come from nowhere. And because we don't possess, well, there are some folks that have, access to tools like you. There are some folks, shamans around the globe have been doing this for thousands of years. It's really us in our highly, technological, you know, everyday reality that we have somehow lost connection to this bigger, broader, richer universe. And
Well,
that
I
that's
do connect. I'm going to stop you there just for a sec because I
yeah,
do
sure.
connect with extraterrestrials on the other side. Okay.
Yeah.
And other beings. And what I always get from them, great depth of knowledge and patience, and
Mm.
very very grounded, even though we're talking about extraterrestrials, but they always say to me, the human race is a young race.
Mm.
The one thing that really puzzles them is our propensity for violence and the emotional depth and breadth that we have as human beings. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that extraterrestrials don't have emotions, but we, without any disrespect, the way it almost feels like to me, when you have a 2-year-old that can be very rebellious and why, and no, I'm doing it
Mm-hmm.
my way, I know, and that's how I feel, almost the way they describe us, almost lovingly,
Mm-hmm.
tolerantly, and patiently, but they have that much more experience and everything
Mm-hmm.
on us as the adults, if you will, of the universe.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And the testimonials that people come back with confirm that
Mhm.
there's a kind of advisory that's being offered. Robert Monroe talked about using his binaural beats. He had encounters with, non-human intelligence. They even had a sense of humor. They were even
Oh
kind
yeah.
of funny, and kind of cracking on him a bit, but making talking about the fate of the human race. And like you said, we're on this planet, we're not taking care of it. We
Mhm.
don't we don't treat the earth, its rivers, its trees, its skies, we don't treat it as a living thing. We treat it as a thing for us to be
Yeah,
used.
we're egocentric. Like I said, we very much are, like, without disrespect. Like, and I don't get me wrong, I love kids, but 2-year-olds,
Yeah,
we know what 2-year-olds are like.
yeah,
And
terrible twos.
that's kind of how I kind of see humanity. Not all of
Yeah,
us, but a big portion of us.
yeah, and look in our own, in our experience. I mean, you see a squirrel walk down the street. Do you go up and talk to it? What would they?
I do.
The, well, that's good. Actually, I think that's good. When you do talk to trees, when you do talk
Mhm.
to squirrels, and you get something back. But
Always.
my point was just that a squirrel, by comparison, these non-human intelligences who are vastly superior in terms of intellectual, or at least knowledge. Let's put it that way.
Mhm.
There's 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 no context to speak to us. Just like a squirrel can't speak back to us. If I speak to a squirrel, what is it going to say? It's going to kind of shoot over
You
its
would be
head.
very surprised. I'm actually hoping she's going to show up tonight. Julie Jean Bassett is a friend of mine. I've taken her animal communication course. She's an incredible animal communicator. She's helped me with 2 of my animals
Mm,
profoundly. On top of the fact, and this is measurable,
mm.
helping, and she's also a shamanic practitioner. And since I have had you on this show, I had a session with her that was so profound and life changing and
Wow.
really did a lot that needed to be healed that I
Mm,
hadn't dealt with. And it would be interesting to hear her perspective, because you'd be very surprised if, and I believe it's our birthright as human beings to be able to speak to nature, to animals, but it's
absolutely.
kind of like a radio station of being tuned into the frequency, because and to know that we need to ask permission. Like I always say,
Mm,
our, for example, our paranormal experience, I wouldn't wish it on a blade of grass, let alone a human being, but I'm no better than a blade of grass. But my
mm-hmm,
point is that I think that everything has some level of consciousness, because it couldn't, in the way that if we really are a part of each other, like we really are, I believe, from where we originate, that when we are where we are, where we're situated, I hope this makes sense, that there's some level of consciousness with anything that's living, and if you want to call it breathing, or I mean, grass doesn't necessarily breathe, but my point is that I think if we take the time to ground ourselves and make the effort to connect, that it's kind of like that old saying I keep hearing from Spirit through this whole show. Remember that movie? If they build it, or if you
yeah,
build it, they will
it will
come.
come. Yeah.
I think it's the same way with ufology and anything
Mm-hmm,
else. If you're open to it, not trying to force it, I think it needs to
mm-hmm.
flow like water. It will happen.
I agree. And s- I th- listening to nature, we're cut off. When I say we, I'm saying in general, listening to nature is a path to a more enlightened state. And I'm not claiming that I have that. There's a Robin Wall Kimmerer. She's written a beautiful book called Braiding Sweetgrass,
Mm-hmm.
and she's an indigenous. She's a member of the Potawatomi tribe. She's also a botanist.
Oh, I love
But
it.
she talks about. She writes about. She's a beautiful writer, and she writes about what would seem to be non-intuitive ways of engaging with nature, and how you can demonstrate its intelligence. And
Mm-hmm.
what we're discovering is that we have approached in science looking at studying trees, studying plants.
Mm-hmm.
If you engage other methods of, say, for example, like you said, asking permission,
Mm-hmm.
communicating, attempting to communicate, something could happen. There could be some channel opened. They are listening to us. They're definitely listening to us. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
plants, the all life on the planet. And but what I was trying to say is that we we're not even listening to the birds. We're not even paying attention to the intelligence in the rivers. And there's all this intelligent life all around us, and we're saying, okay, give me my telescope. Let me look up there. And it's like right here in front of us. It's right here in a spiritual. Uh, some people, I think, it comes to them through like thunder in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Very strong, to kind of go to it. Anything, like any relationship, nothing is only of one kind.
Right.
But that's very much a theme of the book. Is there's this? It's very terrestrial as much as it's extraterrestrial.
Mm-hmm.
And the point that I was trying to make is that we don't seem to demonstrate on a global scale as a species. We're not demonstrating that we're listening. We're not demonstrating that we're taking care of the planet. We kind of are focused on our egocentric everyday Dow Jones, how's the Dow doing? What is the quarter business like? That's kind of the focus that uh, most people have, including myself, and it's a struggle to get around that. Um, and our society is set up. It's not set up to inspire your sacred encounter with your existence and with other sentience. It's set up to make you feel less good about yourself, to buy better shoes, to spend more money, to get that toothpaste, to get that extra thing. Let's face it, that's for us to be engaged with all of the experience around us is a threat to the
But maybe
corporations.
that's why we're having these encounters, to remind us. Because
Yeah.
especially this is bringing up so many thoughts about the fact I always say I've been so deeply blessed to be there hundreds of times at the beginning of life working in the NICU. But some of the most profound life-changing experiences I've had, I felt so deeply honored to have asked to have been there when my patient chooses to transition, as I call it, going back home in their
Hmm.
own earthly home here, right? And what we see, because I can tell you, I say this, I've said this many times on this show and other shows, is I have looked after people that have been wealthier than whatever and the poorest of the poor. But I can tell you, of all the people, not one person has said, regardless of who they are, status in life, whatever, I wish I'd made more money. I wish I had bought more things. The only thing they've always ever said is, I wish I would have told the people that I love every
Hmm.
day how much they mean to me. Or I wish I wouldn't have waited till I lost that final 20 pounds to go skydiving, or to, it's the regrets about what they didn't do. And what I was going to add to this, because I agree with you 100% with what you're saying, but I think it's a choice, right? We get,
Mm.
and maybe that's one of the reasons why we have encounters with ET. I'm not sure, but we have a choice, right? And I don't think, again, without, because it can sound very preachy or judgmental, and I don't want it to sound that way, but we have a choice. We can be in service to self, meaning I got to run out and line up for the next iPhone, and I need this, and I need this, and I need this, and I need this. Or we can
Hmm.
in service to others. And we've seen it. And I've said this many times with even the healing work, working one-on-one with people. You'll see, and let's use the Kardashians. Okay, I don't watch TV, but they seem to have all the money and these people are idolizing them and whatever else. People are people. We all have the same problems. We've heard the thing, right? More money, more problems. That it
Mm-hmm.
could be. But the other thing is, do you ever see these people truly happy?
Mm. Yeah.
Right. So I think it's when people stop, breathe, and then ask themselves if they're willing to, if they have the courage to do it and say, why am I not happy? I should be, right. And some of these people have a life people would kill for. They've
Mm-hmm.
got, they live in these mansions and they travel around the world and they've got everything they could never want for a thing, yet they're not happy. And why would that
Mm-hmm.
be? It's in
Mm-hmm.
service to self, right?
Yeah. And what we crave is love, but not just
And
getting it,
feeling
giving it.
needed and appreciated. Yep. Hmm.
Like the song says, the love you take is equal to the love you make, and if there's an
Here she
input in it.
is. I knew she'd be here.
Huh.
Julie, were your ears ringing? This is Julie Jean Bassett. So she's an incredible animal communicator. We were talking a little bit about shamanic stuff. So I'm glad you're here. I mentioned you about 10 minutes ago, Julie. This is Mike. He's been on this show before. I'm just going to do a quick hello. We got a few people here. We've got
Yeah,
Sandra Sharp very quickly. Sorry, Mike. Give me one sec here. I
that's
always
okay.
like to say hi to everybody.
Hey
Diane
there.
Brighton's here. And Jeannie Spencer, like I said, hi. Zach said scripted bliss isn't real happiness. Absolutely. And if they are happy, he says they'll remain as they are. I don't know if Michelle's going to share a quick story. She said, go ahead, Mike. But I don't know. And I could be wrong about that. But I think what we're talking about, and I agree 100%, right? This is what life is presented in a developed country, that this is what life is. This is what you
Right.
to make you happy. And there comes a point where an individual can look at their life, and I think they have to have the courage to do it and say, I'm not happy. There's got
Mm.
to be more to life. Like, why am I here? What, like this isn't working. And then
Mm-hmm.
it's more work, I think, because it's not the norm. Would you
Mm-hmm.
agree?
Well, yeah, I think I always like to be a little careful to that, because I feel that everyone's path is different. So I always feel,
Absolutely.
that you could just ask my wife about how imperfect I am, so she can give
Well,
you a
none of
list.
us are perfect.
But right, right. And I certainly don't have a prescription for this is how one should be.
And I
I
hope that didn't sound that way for me either.
No, 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 not at
Like,
all.
not to sound judgmental, or because I love what you just said. Yeah, we all have a different path and a reason for being here.
And and perhaps it takes a few lifetimes to kind of get a little awakened to that aspect. It's funny that the words you used. I want to find the exact chapter. So the chapter that I wrote about, so it's called Returning to Earth.
Ooh.
And it was about my mom transitioning. But when you see someone now you're a nurse, so you know this well, and you see, first of all, they're seeing the universe very differently than we are. And I used the word psychedelic. I just want to say that psychedelic, what it actually means is mind manifesting. It doesn't mean I'm seeing things that aren't there. It means I'm seeing things that are there.
I love that, because when you were saying that, I was thinking you were going to say mind altering.
Right.
I just love
It's
that you said that,
actually
mind manifesting.
you're penetrating.
Mhm.
And so when my mom was going through that state and the eyes get kind of glazed over, and then she's having conversation, she's having emotional experience
Mhm.
with, I'm not seeing what she's seeing.
No.
So that was very profound, and it also connected me. And I'm part of the theme. One of the themes of the book is as above, so below.
Mhm.
Is we are made of the stuff of this earth.
Mm-hmm.
We are composed of the stuff of this earth, which we believe comes from stars. Everything that, my entire body, it's the food that I eat, it's the interaction, it's the communication with the soil, the water. But that experience brought me so close to where that transition is. And that I don't want to get maudlin over it. That's not the point. It's that the fabric from here to there is connected,
Absolutely.
and it's absolutely connected. And there are so many ways to penetrate that veil, if you want to call it that.
I
But
like
when you're seeing someone who's seeing, beholding angels
that. Mm-hmm.
and this deep consciousness, so now they're in the flow, the river of consciousness, and that's someone might say, well, what does that have to do with UFOs? Well, for all we know, that's part of the idea of the book, is that there are dimensions that are intersecting with us at this very moment. We're just not perceiving it. We are sometimes. I mean, so it depends on, are you awake to it? Are you paying attention? Are you using a tool to? Some people have, the antenna is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
That antenna just picks up. Some people have to work harder.
I shared this because
Yeah,
speaking of antennas, and I remember I had said earlier from the movie, if you build it, they will come. So Michelle said we wanted to share this story. So she's
yeah.
over in Australia. And I read these out because for people listening, she said, I wanted to get some guinea fowl feathers for a friend. Asked my guinea fowls, or she said, I asked my guinea fowls. I think she meant, if you will, telepathically. My
Yeah.
partner called me outside, and there were feathers everywhere on our lawn after she asked. So, this is okay. So, just to add to this,
Yeah.
so if we really do come from, say, the stars, and are we really, because I think we have a multitude of lives, and I don't believe that we just all have them here on earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've heard of experiences, and I'm sure you ran into this with your research, where people have had experiences, whether it may be with hallucinogenics or whatever, a dream or experiences where they have had beings from other planets connect with them and then say, do you not remember me?
Mm.
I'm your mother, or whatever, because I believe they live much longer than what we do as human beings. So I think they could be part of who we are, like where we come from, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
also think um, it was interesting, and thank you for sharing that about your mom's transition. And I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
And um, you almost just gave me a glimpse of where is home back home. I've studied near death experiences professionally and personally for over 40 years. You'll see where I'm going with this in a sec.
Mm-hmm.
I've had one as a toddler myself. How do we know? Maybe we're just not going to a different planet, different dimension. Because I've seen
Mm-hmm.
people talk about near death experiences where a guide shows up and takes them, and they go all through the universe and they look at different planets. And because you always hear
Mm-hmm.
people going through the tunnel of light, and people think that that's all that happens when we die, or near death experience. And I've seen so many profound experiences of people going to different planets and connecting with different beings.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we know that? I don't know. Like, I am even open to the possibility, and I believe in angels. That's part of why my show is called The Angel Rock.
Mm-hmm.
I'm even open to the possibility that, how do we not know that some of what we think is an angel could be um, an extraterrestrial?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, and this has been happening to us since we were painting images on cave walls.
Hmm.
Stephen Greer claims to contact ET. I think it's very possible. I've done meditations where I've meditated, moving myself, off of the earth and moving through the solar system, you are going to bump into something. You're going to make some contact. Um,
I don't think human beings, okay, and I think without sounding egotistical in any way, I think part of my reason why I'm here is to whomever I end up connecting with, or, maybe they'll watch the show or whatever, is to remind humanity about how powerful we are. I believe that at one time, if we've been around as long as we've talked about it tonight, the human beings did not speak through words, that we communicated telepathically,
mhm,
that we can be very telekinetic. We can do many of the things that we have always been told are not possible, because think of, even Michelle just shared, she wanted to she wanted
mhm,
some guinea fowl, and she put it out there telepathically, and her partner called her out, and there's her lawn full of, and there's going to be people, they're going to say, oh, that's just a coincidence. I don't believe there are coincidences. And I
mhm.
think that once we start to look at this and we read books like yours, and we start delving and digging in deeper with an open mind, and it may take training, right?
Mhm.
But I was starting to say with the animal communication a little bit ago, I think that's our birthright. I think that as children, young children, we can do that.
Mhm.
And it's buried way back in there, all of these things. And it's just, we've been so programmed to believe it's not possible, because we see people being able to do this. Or do
Yeah.
the ET come back to remind us who we are?
Yeah. Things like precognition, what in, telepathy.
Mhm.
Once you start to pay attention to it, you start to see it. And then someone, like you said, could say, well, that's just coincidence that you thought about this and then it happened. I told Jeff Kripal, whose book that I read that spawned this book, I said, I felt like I read your book after I wrote mine,
So,
and he said, I get that all the time. So it's not uncommon. But there are, I would say there's this kind of constellation of modalities, but they're all very much connected. So whether it's through, actually getting on a nuts and bolts UFO, or whether it's in communication with a shaman, or whether it's through dreams, or whether it's through a psychedelic substance or binaural beats, these are all just spokes in the hub, and it's all connected ways to access the deeper, the richer aspects of ourselves. And I think that's where the ET is, in that deeper ocean of what Jung called the collective unconscious. It's
so
it's
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah,
No, go
but
ahead.
it's not right here. I can't just stay right in my ego and in my logical mind. I've got to uh, tap it through other methods.
Yeah, but you know what? When I'm mentoring and teaching people, and one of my mentors taught me this years ago, because I would always suggest to people, and I mentor as well and teach, how to access your intuition and connect with spirit and what have you. But I always encourage people to work with different mentors. And I had many a
Mm,
mentor always tell me, you need to banish the ego. If you're going to be a light worker, you must banish the ego. Well, guess what? It's there for a reason, just like your appendix is. Now, we may not
mm,
always know what the reason why something is there for. And something one of my mentors taught me that I really love, and I do teach this as well. How about making friends with your ego? It's there for a
yeah.
reason. It keeps us safe. And, even if you're looking at something, not you, I mean, like the global, you're looking at something that's very unbelievable, and the logical ego mind steps in and says, that's absolutely, there's no way that can happen. It's your imagination. You're going crazy. If you can just say, if you will, within the mind's eye, I say to people, how about saying to your ego, I hear you. How about just if you sit on the sideline and watch, and let's just see what happens, and then
Hmm.
delve further. Because you're never going to banish your ego. It's part of who
Right.
you are, right?
It's like yin and yang. I completely
Mhm.
agree. And you need a logical mind. And I mean, science gives us the means to have this conversation in two very distant places. Um, there's no doubt that and you need an ego just to go about your everyday. I believe the ego is hallucination. Yeah, I mean, society is a hallucination. It's a mass. We agree to have this. I mean, they had the Oscars last night, right? It's this,
Didn't
as
watch.
there's all of this crazy stuff going on in the world, and yet
Yeah.
there's the Oscars, and there's this. People just agree that this fabricated reality, quote, is real. So I do agree with you, and you need your ego to go about your everyday,
Mm-hmm.
to make money. I mean, who's going to take care of me? I have to, you know, take writing assignments. I have to do things. I've
Mm-hmm.
done restaurant reviews. I have to do what it takes uh,
Pay the
to
bills.
not exactly,
Mm-hmm.
and it's critical, and it's this. It's not a binary thing. It's not an either or thing.
Excuse me.
It's
Mm-hmm.
You're okay. It's
I'm
it's just it's more of it's engagement with more of what's out there, and I think it brings a, a richer experience. And for me as a writer, it's that this is I get a lot of my material from dreams. I get a lot from that
Yeah, so
inspiration from
let's talk
visions.
a bit about that because
Yeah,
I know you don't want to give everything away from the book with the book, but we want people to go out and read it, buy
yeah.
it and read it. But let's talk a little bit about, because that's kind of where we started our conversation. And I love that you had said, well, I didn't have this experience standing on the front lawn and this bright light as a flying saucer, because I really believe a lot more people will resonate with your experience. And don't get me wrong, I haven't talked to every person in the universe or the planet, but the majority of people I have connected with is I resonate with what you're saying. People in the chat have been saying that it's coming through a dream state, or even
Hmm.
with the hallucinogenics. Whatever you feel comfortable sharing, Mike. I'd love to hear more about it, and I'm sure the audience would too.
Yeah, yeah, and a part of thank you. A part of the idea of the book is that it's not just extraordinary experiences. There are opportunities that are right in front of us.
Hmm.
I'll tell you one dream image that came to me.
Interesting. Okay.
I was seeing this in my dream. I'm seeing this kind of cigar-shaped phenomena that's heading toward me, and I see shooting off of it. It looks like kind of space shuttles or something.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then after that, following that, are these kind of halogen lamp type looking UFOs that are, speeding away from this thing that's coming at me kind of on its side. And then I see pine trees. There are pine trees on their side, laying down like this, not standing tall.
Hmm.
And then it's followed by, other visual, fantastic things.
Okay.
What the what I was thinking in my dream, I wrote it down at like 2:30 in the morning. It's in the book. Is it wants me? It's showing itself to me in the way it thinks I want to see it.
Okay.
So, because in the writing of the book, there are huge sections devoted to kind of nature exploration,
Hmm.
and there's that pine tree, and then that's the way I thought about it afterwards. Is that we when we approach this thing, you look at the Bible has stories of Ezekiel and their chariots of fire. You look at different cultures, and it seems to come to people in the context that they were brought up in, and that context changes. So then it comes to us as technology. It comes to us as
Hmm.
spaceships. That could very well be a moving target of just our construction of what we think it is, and then it gives it to us in that way, so it's comprehensible.
Oh, interesting. We may have had an EVP. Kevin or Z Sun Dragon said I heard a snarling like sound. LOL. We have had I have had some EVPs and some activity in my house as of recent, so you never know. But back to what you were saying though. Okay, so I'd love to know, what your thoughts are, because I know, for example, with working with people that have paranormal activity or have had an experience and have seen a spirit or even um, a higher vibrational or positive energetic type being. In
Hmm.
my experience, and especially whether it's in the dream state or whatever it may be, that especially if something does not want to scare you,
Hmm.
it will appear to you in a form that will be acceptable to the human brain, that the person it's appearing to will not scare them, and they will be open to that experience. And what I mean by that is, for example, the way I know it, angels do not have genders, nor do they have wings. But many of us have been taught to believe that angels have wings, or we see pictures of them with wings. So I've met many an individual who will, especially at the end of life, see an angel, but the angel will appear if they're able to have a conversation and explain it with the wings
Mm.
or anything like that. Say, I know people that have had ET experiences as little children, and explaining, my co-host, he's had an experience when he was like 5 years old with a reptilian, and it was very positive for him, and he wasn't afraid. And the way he was able to perceive this being and the way it interacted with him, it was acceptable to his 5-year-old mind, so he wouldn't go to a place of fear.
Mm.
So, did you run across that, or did you make any profound discoveries of what you were just sharing previously? Do you think that's why they appear that way, or what was your thoughts?
You know, those are great questions, and I think there's some aspect of who we are. Uh,
Sorry. Because Sun said it's
yeah.
Lorilai's Bigfoot, which she's keeping in her closet. Sorry, go ahead.
It's thumping on the closet door. Um, but it's interesting that people um, will have some people can have terrifying experiences, and I don't. That's some people, and I don't know why that is the case. Some people have beatific experiences, and some people have both.
Mhm.
Kathleen Martin, who I read her book, Forbidden Knowledge. I mean, some of it was a little rough at first, and then it was, and on her path, on her spiritual path, she made friends with it.
Mhm.
So I don't. It's hard exactly to say. It could be things like what's going on in your life, and who knows. Perhaps there are different entities. Some are more playful. Some are like human beings. They have their agenda. Um,
I think there's negative. I think,
yeah.
especially with being in this existence on Earth, or as they call it, 3D, you mentioned the yin and the yang. You cannot have one without the other. I believe to be in perfect balance, ideally. Don't know if that could ever happen, but you have to have equal of both. So you're
Hmm.
going to have evil, you're going to have good, you're going to have light, you're going to have dark, but it would have to be in perfect balance with the human being. I always say being perfectly connected, if you will, grounded to the earth or Gaia, and
Hmm.
connected through the chakra. Some people say chakra energy systems, and connected to what their belief is, whether it's universe, source, heaven, whatever it may be.
Hmm.
To me, the way spirit showed me, that that would be the ideal, perfect, or perfection, if you will, of a human being on this planet being in complete balance.
Hmm.
So I don't think we could not have negative experiences, some people, for whatever reason.
Yeah, and it on a psychedelic experience could be very frightening. Could be very
Oh,
frightening, and I've had them.
definitely.
So I've
Mhm.
had them, and what are you encountering? You're encountering you. You're encountering that other
The
aspect
shadow,
of, pardon?
the shadow
The
side of.
shadow, the shadow. You're encountering, the collective unconscious. You're encountering this river of other that perhaps connects us to them. But when you see that, it could be, you might want to run the other way. So maybe in practice in meditation and other means, you find ways to be more comfortable in that space, in that situation.
Do you think
So
it's about preconceived notions, though, too, if you're in a state of
yeah.
fear? And that depends on it, whether it could be if you're using a hallucinogenic. I've heard from people that will say if you're not in the right state of mind or you're in a
Hmm.
really low vibrational state, that's when you would have a quote unquote
Right.
bad trip or even experiences with these otherworldly beings. Or maybe people have experiences with some that are what we would classify in human terms of evil. And again, my co host David, he really gave me food for thought when he said, can we really ever call something evil? Because, for example, with an extraterrestrial that we may consider evil, that where they come from, that's not considered evil. That's just who they are,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Look at, human beings. Some of us, we consume living things on the planet. Is that evil? It's debatable, but it's certainly not nice to the living things that we, uh, you know, took their lives to make our lives sustain.
But I have a thought about this, and it may be
Yeah.
upsetting to some people. Hi, Debbie Schmoley. Nice to see you here. I had a hard time wrapping my mind around it when I first heard it. And I'm with taking with different courses, like I said, different mentors. And it's this now, if we really believe, and I do, and I'm not pushing my beliefs on others, I'm just saying where I'm coming from. I
Hmm.
believe that we basically are an everlasting energy source or soul or being, if you will, that is just having a human experience in this lifetime. But before we come here, and if
Hmm.
you are truly, everlasting, eternal, coming here to this earth journey, for example, although it seems like forever here, it's a long time. It's really like the blink of an eye, right? It's almost, if you will, like
Hmm.
a vacation before you go to a vacation. And there's a reason why I'm saying it the way I am. So there's before you go on a vacation, right? You're going to do your research. You're going to make some plans, maybe about where you're going to go, get some maps, what have you. What I'm trying to say is, I think that we plan for a visit before we come here, if you will. There's certain people we're going to interact with, and what have you. Probably have a purpose. And I don't think our life is all planned out. I think we can come here and screw it all up if we wanted, because we come in with spiritual amnesia. And but it's here to have an experience for our soul to grow, learn, and evolve. With that being said, this is the part where I had the hard part wrapping my mind around it, that animals also are here in that same, maybe not quite as evolved plan of life, but
Hmm.
animals know that they are here for the purpose that they're here. And it may be an agreement, and that's where it's going to be upsetting to people to hear, and it was to me, that they know that that's probably how their life may end.
Hmm.
And where I have the problem too is with the greed, and where we take and take and take. I love the way of life with First Nations people, that if they did take an animal, they thanked the animal for their sacrifice and for the life and for nourishing and sustaining their tribe, and they utilized every part of the animal.
Hmm.
So that's where I have the problem, is with the greed and the waste. I don't know, and it may sound very upsetting to people to hear it, and it did to me for a long time, but then I sort of sat back and looked at it and I thought, still doesn't make it acceptable to me, but it may be a little bit more understandable, if that made any sense at all.
Hmm. I think it's an interesting idea, and I think it's in Apache. The word for land is the same word as the word for mind. That there's no, it's the same thing, and the
Mhm.
soil is us, and the river is us, and
I
the
do
sky
believe
is
that.
us.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I aspirationally, want to believe in that, and I do believe in that, but I know that in my lived everyday life, I'm not always demonstrating that. I feel it's a
But
goal,
are
and
any of us,
right,
right? Like,
yeah,
even though I
yeah,
say it's not my job to be judgmental, and I've said it many times throughout, especially the last 10, 15 years, I am not perfect in that. There are times I make judgments, even if I don't state them, I do. And then I will
Hmm.
try and catch myself and breathe and say, hey, not your job to judge. But I think it's part of the human experience. And even being here, and just the fact that you're using your platform and you're making an effort to be kinder to the planet, to spread that message, right? You're beginning to put that energy out there. And I think that we all have to start at some point. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And, I hope that my hope uh, is that, I do want to be kinder to the planet. I do want to be kinder to people. For me, if it's not all wrapped up in love, um, I worry about someone's objective. Um, and that gets us out of our ego too, to lead with our heart,
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
to put others before us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something connecting. Uh, there's something that this is a greater purpose. So I'm firmly with you. And the for all we know, I keep coming back to that, Laura. But for all we know,
Mm-hmm.
we're all made of the same elemental parts. So we're all
I think we are.
participating.
I think.
Animals, plants,
Mm-hmm.
we're all participating in this stew of existence.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps moving towards, awakening to something bigger and to that interconnectedness. And when we as a society on vibrating on that level, as a global level, when we get to that place, that we might be more welcomed, generally all of us into that conversation with the rest of the universe.
Is that kind of what you felt like? Is that sort of some of the message that you were perceiving from your dreams that you were sharing with your book? Or is it just overall what you were feeling that you're feeling? Because I agree with you. I don't think we are unwelcome. I think it's the fact that you writing books like this and sharing your experiences and more people, because I think when we share our experiences with a subject that may be a little bit taboo or not what some people would consider the norm, that it
Hmm.
gives other people the courage to speak up and say, hey, I had this experience too. And the example I'm going to give, when we went through our paranormal experience, I always used to say, it's so isolating because it's not something that you're going to be having a quick conversation about when we're in line or on queue in the grocery store, for example. But I can tell you, when you get a group of people together and you start talking about the paranormal or your experiences, somebody opens it at the doorway a little crack, and then somebody else picks up on it and opens it a little
Hmm.
wider. Pretty soon the door is kicked right open in a group of people, whether we're talking ufology and ETs or we're talking just ghosts, the whole bit. And before you know it, 90 something percent of the people there usually have had some kind of experience. Have you noticed that yourself?
Absolutely. And if you think about it, people are afraid to talk about it because
I am
they're,
frozen. Hang on here, guys.
oh,
I am frozen. Hang on. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry, guys. I don't know the ufology here. Now Mike's frozen. Let's see if that works. No, I'm still frozen.
I was going to
Here.
say, Laura, I might want to grab a beverage. And also, I probably need to get my power cable. My computer's going.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Can I
And
take
then
a
I
quick?
was frozen. So do you
Okay.
want to come back on your phone? Do you want to do that, or do you want to stay on
Oh,
your computer?
I'll quit here and I'll just come back. But I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna get my power cord.
Perfect. Okay, I'll move you out. Hang on. I'll kick you out. I'll say kick you out, but you can come right back in. You just gotta come back in on the link on your phone, okay? And I'll keep talking. Hang
Sounds
on.
good.
I'm
I'll see you
kicking
in
you.
just a.
Okay. See
Okay.
you in a bit. Okay, guys. Hopefully, there we go. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. We're having lots of fun tonight, aren't we? I'm still frozen, guys. I have no idea why. Let's hope this works. Let's see. Hopefully you guys, can you still hear me? I hope you guys can hear me. My camera is freezing. It's not adding me. Hang on, I'm gonna add me to the stage. No, it does not want to add me, you guys. Let's see if it'll add me this way. It's once Mike comes back on here, you guys can still hear me. Yeah, Mike glitched. Yeah, now it's not adding me. This, don't you love the beauty of social? Don't you love the beauty of this all? Hang on, I'm still here, guys. Hang on. Adding me to the stage. Can you guys see me? Hopefully you can see me. So what'll happen when Mike comes back on, if you guys can still hear me, great. Hi, Herbert. I didn't get a chance to say hi. So what we'll do is when Mike comes back on, if I have to pop out and pop right back in, I'll let him just talk. It'll take me literally 10 seconds. I'll just open another page and pop right back in here because I can't see me on the camera unless you guys can see me. And it's showing that I'm on. That's why you're seeing a black screen, because my camera is supposed to be covering the whole, I don't know if you can see the arrow on the screen. It's supposed to be covering the whole, my live camera. I know it's black. Yeah. Watch. When I take me out, you won't hear me, but watch. You'll see the background. See the background's there. It's not showing my camera. I've covered up my camera. I've tried everything and it's still not doing it. And I don't want to leave you guys sitting here with no sound. So once Mike comes back in, and he'll message me if he can't get, he should be able to get back in. I send him the link all over the place. Don't you just love live video, you guys? Isn't this crazy? So interesting conversation tonight. And I'm really Kasun says Bigfoot is covering you guys and your Bigfoot. I better not have a Bigfoot in my closet. I literally am frozen my camera right here. There's Mike. So hang on, let me add him.
Hey there.
Hi, Mike. My camera is frozen.
Oh
So
God.
tell you what, I'm going to let you, if you want to show there's a bunch of people here that haven't been here before. Give me 1 second. I'm going to get this set up. So what I'm going to do is I'll pop off and I'll let you show people your book and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I will pop right back in. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
I'm going to, well, hopefully it won't end the show. It shouldn't do that. Hang on. I'm going to remove me. Hang on, and I'll do it this way.
Okay. I'm not sure if people are seeing me, but here's the book. And if you go to mikefiorito.com, you'll find it. I'll read a little section of it, and just for a few minutes. And if Laura comes back, great. If not, we'll sign off with this.
No, I'll be back. I'm just trying to get StreamYard on so I can come back on here and I don't close the show. I promise. I'm here. I can hear you.
Okay.
Hang on.
Okay. I'll just read a bit of it. This is called The Light Around Us. Through the window of my bedroom comes the sound of trees ruffling in the wind. The wind beats against the window glass as if to say, "Let me in." Mariella is fast asleep, but I can't sleep. The noise rattles my nerves. Rising out of bed irritated, I walk towards the window.
No,
I see a bright beam of light shining down on the street outside my apartment building. From here, I can't see its source. "What's going on?" Mariella says, woken by my rustling. "I don't know. There's a bright light outside. I'm going to check it out."
I'm here, guys.
Oh, you're okay now?
I'm here. It's not giving me a camera. I might have to come in on my phone and do it that way. That's what I might do. I just don't want to lose. If I close it, it'll close. I don't want to close the show. It shouldn't do that, though. You know what?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. I'm going to see if I can kick me out of here. Go ahead. Keep reading. Go ahead. I'm going to figure this out.
Sure. I slip into a pair of pants, skipping on one foot, put my shoes on one at a time, and stumble out the door. The street is empty. Middle of the night, parked car is silent. An owl hoots in the distance, probably in the nearby park. The beam of light is so bright it's hard to look at it. Straining my eyes, I see that its source is an object hovering about 200 feet in the air. My eyes begin to tear. The smell of sulfur fills the air. Although the beam seems pointed at a particular spot, the sidewalk is flooded with illumination. It's beautiful. I am reminded of Moses' burning bush. I'm not all afraid or concerned, although I'm usually a worrywart. I'm certain.
Sorry, guys. Give me a minute.
Oh, that's okay. It's
Okay,
it's
here I
kind of
am.
is it? Yeah, yeah. I see you now. I
I'm
see
on my
you.
camera. That's why.
I see you.
I'm on my
But
phone. That's why.
well, that's cool. So I read a little bit of it. I didn't want to give too much away, but it's basically an encounter uh, that that kind of describes. It's toward the end of the book. I'll read another little section.
Go ahead. Yeah.
As if a lamp has been turned on, I see a brilliantly lit disk hovering above the trees. Its light showers down on me. I am overjoyed by the sensation of power the disk emits. In my awe, I almost get to my knees to pray. The disk, the UFO, is the most powerful entity I've ever encountered. Although soundless, its power is palpable, like it could lift the earth and fling it into space. From what I can tell, the UFO is perhaps 25 feet across, and yet I can only think that it is like the sun, massive and inexhaustible. There is knowledge in the cascade of light that pours down from it. Suddenly, the light stops. I look up quickly and notice the UFO has become a shadowy blot in the sky, as if its immense light source has folded inward. In less than a few seconds, it moves horizontally at an incredible speed and disappears. No sound. My eyes still fixed on the night sky, I see a light appear among the few viewable stars. Could it have gone that far, that fast? Oh, thank you, Z-Sun Dragon. Thank you.
That's Kevin.
Thank you. But that's just a little taste. And, my objective in writing that was to, so that's built from fragments of dreams, but was to hopefully, tell it in a way that other people would. I'm not just writing to the UFO community or the paranormal community. I want other people to engage in this conversation. That's my hope.
And
To at
how
least
would you like
consider.
them? How would you like them to engage in the way of, say that they've never really believed in ufology? Because I believe that your books, because you're an incredible writer, and I know this is what you do
Thank you.
for a living, that say somebody that maybe didn't believe in ufology, but what could they get out of that? And people are
Well,
saying thank you, great writing. You should narrate the book. People are really enjoying.
oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. The character, the narrator of the book is a skeptic and
Oh,
cautious of people, not trusting. And so I I wanted to engage what maybe some people go through is I'm a skeptic, I don't believe. And then I take you on a journey. The word paranormal, it's
we are just going to have fun tonight, guys. I think Mike's locking up here. Give him a minute, guys. Thanks for your patience tonight. We don't usually have technical issues. You back, Mike?
I can see you. Can you see me?
Yeah, you're back. Go ahead. Sorry, just cut off as
Oh
you were
gosh, I
talking.
don't.
I think you know what I think it is. It's CETs tonight or Bigfoot.
They're hijacking the conversation. Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
um, yeah, just that I want this conversation, the UFO conversation makes so much sense that I'm hoping to reach people that might shirk at it, might not pick that book up off the shelf.
Mhm.
And it's through the everyday lived experiences of a person. So the fantastic is found in the ordinary is part of what, so one of the themes of the book. It's not just this it's not just that. Yes, it can be that too. It can be, a visitation, a ghost visitation or an angel visitation, but it could be a profound experience listening to music. It could be a profound experience sitting by the bedside of someone dying. It could be an experienced head while a gun is put up to your head, that connect us into that deeper place of who we are, which is a questioning and an ever curious place. So that is my hope, that people will follow that journey and come with me on that trip, and hopefully it brings something to them, that maybe it shifts their thinking a bit. That's
I
the greatest goal.
I I like that because we didn't really talk too much about music being a gateway into this. I know we talked about it at the beginning, but what I wanted to share with you was I have a friend, a close friend, that we've never really talked about this kind of stuff, but we do the Akashic records, both of us. We're both into crystals. We love talking about dimensions and timelines and, all this type of stuff. And very recently in the last year, I think they were almost not sure if they should share it or not. And I'm so glad that they did. And music is a gateway for them, but they actually connect with extraterrestrial beings of a
Mhm.
positive nature, and music is the gateway.
So that's a part of this book too. And
Wow.
I'd love to actually talk to that person, because I'm working on something now
Mhm.
that I'm talking to musicians, some of whom I've interviewed
But
previously.
they're not a musician, because I knew you were looking for musicians. They're not a musician. They're just deeply, deeply touched by music,
Hmm.
and it really opens gateways for them to have different experiences. But go
And
ahead. You know what? I cut you off there, and I didn't mean to. Please share
no,
that,
that's
because there may
okay.
be somebody listening that may be who you're
Yeah.
looking for.
And that person, they don't have to be a musician, just that musicians are maybe sometimes are more tuned into it. But the only ask I have is, you have a story. It doesn't render to logical analysis. Something extraordinary happened, and it could be, some of it's people connecting with people from beyond. Um, it could really be anything. All I ask is it's a genuine story, and I will take the story and kind of fold it into. I have a bunch of stories already completed. But yeah, music. I mean, uh, binaural beats is a kind of, it's vibration, it's frequency.
We
Um,
had a question from Kasun, and Kasun, I'll see if I can still see it. It may not be up here because it was about the binaural beats.
yeah,
Actually, Kasun's mentioned a few things. He's saying that classical music definitely affects the brain somewhat. I mean, it's not as strong to as EMF, which can directly affect the brain, because he was asking something about binaural beat. Oh, here it is. I found it. It just
yeah.
jumped on me, but it said, how effective are binaural beats, as I'm going down. He said, some people say sound alone cannot affect the brain, and you need a stronger force like like EMP, electromagnetic frequency.
Yeah, I mean, I've used binaural beats, and I've had experiences as a result. The whole universe is noisy. It's vibrating. I mean, pulsars are, crackling and making noises and exploding and beating, pulsing.
Hmm.
Um, trees make noises. Birds, obviously, they sing. Um, the whole world, the whole universe is made of noise, and music is one aspect of that. So that's music can help take us. I mean, not just memories. It's not like, oh, I remember that song when I graduated high school. That's not really what I'm going after, but how music can deliver the uncanny.
Well,
You
you
know,
know how you're saying about noise. I wanted to add quickly, and then Kasan was asking if there's a
yeah.
few musicians that really affected you with your experiences. But have you seen? It's a video that's out there from a couple of years ago, and a woman had a beautiful garden of sunflowers, and I don't know what the story was, why, but she wondered that if plants made music or noises that we just
Mm.
couldn't hear. So I believe she put some kind of audio recorder on the sunflowers, and it was
Hmm.
a whole, almost like, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it, a whole
Mm.
symphony orchestra of singing type music almost that came from the plants.
Yeah, I've read trees, plants. I mean, everything gives off some kind of vibration.
Mhm.
We're not tuned into it unless we tune into it. Music is a way to tune into it for sure. And the thing is, music can hit you on it hits you on so many levels. It hits you just the audio aspect of it, the emotional aspect. It sort of brings stuff up from your subconscious, and so it's a kind of armed way to access other aspects of your consciousness. Kasun asked about a few musicians that affected me. Meeting Peter Rowan, bluegrass legend, writing a book, being inspired. He I say he put a spell on me. I said, Pete, you put a spell on me because here I am. It's weird to tell someone, by the way, I've been dreaming about you.
Yeah, I
And
guess.
it's like, oh God, please, I've been dreaming about you. I've been getting these visions. We're
I don't want to
communicating.
know you that way, Mike, right? Is that what
Right,
you
right,
said?
exactly. But I think he was intrigued, and there were a lot of synchronicities. I said to him, I said, "Oh, Pete, just so you can get a sense for the project, I've written this book called Falling from Trees." He says, "Oh, that's funny because I wrote a poem called Falling from the Trees."
Wow.
And we were having these synchronicities. So it's that thing where you're opening your ear to precognitive, to other forms of communication. You mentioned telepathy. Music is telepathy happening here. I mean, how are we playing, especially certain kinds of music, non-scripted, jazz music or improvisational?
Mhm.
Someone has an idea, and everyone changes to get it. And if no one talked about it, I'm a musician too, and it's a way. Some scientists believe that our ability to we actually sang before we spoke, so we
Well, you
use
know, the
music.
other thing, I'm going to add to that quickly. I have a son with severe autism. His birthday's on Thursday, so I'll be wishing him happy birthday on
Happy
Thursday. He's
birthday.
26. Thank you. But he was nonverbal for many years. And I wanted to teach him his phone number because he was a runner and all kinds of things. But again, I sometimes there's many blessings in the things that we do in life. And one of the things was being a nurse and understanding how the brain worked. So what I did was instead of speaking the phone number, and I'm a terrible singer, but I sang it to him. And
Mm,
still today, if I say, Justin, what's your phone number? He'll sing it to me. So you are absolutely right.
that's
So thank you
beautiful.
for allowing me to share that because you are absolutely right. Triggers different parts of the brain.
Yeah, A B C D E F G H I. These we use song. Uh, think of Close Encounters, right? Bum 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 bum. This it is. I think it contains. There's information in music. There's culture. There's all kinds of things wrapped up in music. But also it is a kind of communication. It is, and it could be a way that we are being communicated to if we pay attention. Just like you did. You found a way. You weren't able to do it with consensus reality tool. You did something else. Uh, you used song to engage. And I think musicians are very open to uh, aspects of spirituality and consciousness, maybe more than others, because you kind of live in that as an artist. If you're an artist, I shouldn't say just musicians. As an artist, you have to live in the world of
Did I?
curiosity and creation.
We have like 3 minutes left. I could talk to you for hours. Mike, will you please come back on? I'd love to do a show with
Yes.
you talking about music, because
Yes.
music, it's literally like a different language. And imagine where we could go and still build on this as a doorway into all
Yeah.
the.
I'd love
I,
to.
I would
I'd
love
love to.
to.
And I have a book that's in the works. So, I'm working on it and I'm getting interviews. And if people want to talk about and tell me a story that might be applicable,
Mhm.
go to MikeFiorito.com, send me a note, and we can talk about it.
Because somebody, of course, Kassan, you just asked the most awesome question that we probably can't answer quickly. He just said, does morphogenetic resonance also play a role in music? And Kevin just said, please have him back. So you got to come back, Mike.
I definitely will, Laura.
Right.
And I'm not exactly sure. I know the word morphogenic, but I'm not exactly sure what that means. Sorry. Thank you for the. I don't want. I don't pretend that word. I've heard it.
Well, Mike, you've said how to get a hold of you. How can they buy your book too? Books.
It should be anywhere books are sold. So if you go to, maybe not so much in bookstores because that could be variable, but Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, wherever you like to buy books. For all we know, Mike Fiorito, Fiorito. Hey, thank you so much, everyone. Julie, Kassan, thank you so much. I love your notes. And Laura, it's always great to talk to you. And you look so nice on your phone too. Look at that.
Oh, well, thank
It's
you.
more lightly, more light.
Well,
It's
the
brighter.
thing is, so it cuts off the screen, so they like us to use our laptops. So, you guys, if you're enjoying the conversation, please stay tuned. Next, I have about a minute left here to get the next show time to switch back on. But we have Philip and Julia Syracuse coming up with a great show with the Horsefly Chronicles. So stay tuned. You guys know, if you ever want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me on facebook.com/the Angel Rock, or just reach out to me on Facebook under Lorilei Potvin. You can get a hold of me on Messenger, usually the easiest. Don't forget, I will be back Thursday with David Hansel with the thing at the foot of the bed at 7 p.m. Also, I have 2 groups on Facebook: Paranormal University for all things paranormal, the Angel Rocker Tribe for more things spiritual. And don't forget, you guys, we're not quite at 100 yet, but it's with the group with the thing at the foot of the bed. David came up with this idea, and I think it's great. When we get to 200, him and I are going to start going live in there, doing free 1-question readings, answering even more questions than we do in the show. So if you ever want to book a reading with me, I do teaching and mentoring. I also do Akashic Records. I do energy healing. I would love to connect with you. You can also find me on all social media platforms. Mike, thank you again. And I am going to have you back on. I am.
Thank you, Laura. It's so great to see you. And thank you to everyone who listened. I really appreciate it.
It was great to see you. Everybody, thanks so much. We will see y'all next week. I forgot to check who's coming on, but we got a great guest. Otherwise, I will see y'all on Thursday. Much love and light, everybody. Okay,
Ciao.
take care. Stay tuned for
Love and
Philip
light.
and Julia.
Bye.
Bye.